Hello everybody. So last time we did symmetrical scales and symmetrical singing. This time we are moving on to post-tonal singing, the moment that has been perhaps prepared for and foreshadowed for months and months. We are finally here. We are in complete free post-tonality. We're going to spend some time at the end of this chapter, and this is going to be the last kind of material we're going to get before the midterm. And then after the after the midterm, we're going to move on to this kind of stuff in depth for the remainder of the quarter. Okay, so before we get into the post-tonal side tuning, however, let's go ahead and begin by doing some chord dictation. So, same as last time, I'm going to play it for you thrice. I'm going to play it for you in its prime form, in its octave relative to C, to 0. I want you to identify what the internal intervals are and think of what the three numbers in parentheses would be the prime form for this. Okay, so here we go. Here's your first one. I'm going to play them down here. Listen to. And finally, listen 3. Okay, so hopefully this is a somewhat familiar sound to us, actually. This is, in fact, the prime version of an augmented triad. Remember, we have major, third, augmented triads, right? O, 4, 8. Because remember, major thirds are 4 semitones, hence 4. And if you were to add 4 to 8, you get back to 0 again. Yeah. That's one of the easier trichords, I think, to identify because it's the only one that begins from 0 to 4, right? So if you hear a major third at the bottom, that's the only one like that. In addition, it's the widest spaced of any trichord that we're going to have, right? The closest we get besides this is the O3-7, the minor triad, okay? So this is a pretty easy one to narrow down, okay? So here we go. One more trichord for today. Here's the next one. Listen 1 of 3. And listen 3. Okay, so this one's an important one we spent a lot of time on last week, if you recall. This one is the somewhat distinctive 016, a semitone and a tritone, right? This one is particularly dissonant, and but also it's got that distinctive, really wide interval of a tritone and the really narrow interval of a minor second. So that one's a good one to kind of keep on your ears. So, okay, we'll do more trichord practice next time. So we'll do 2 more on Friday. So hopefully these are getting a little bit easier and these are still staying fresh for us, okay? So how we're going to do singing today is going to be a little bit different. Instead of laboring through a lot of singing, I want to kind of ease us in. Monday I threw you in the deep end a little bit more with the symmetrical stuff, because the symmetrical stuff we've been singing for a while, and it should be aurally not as unfamiliar to us as this stuff will be. So I have 3 examples for us today, and instead of doing kind of like a go back and forth, kind of like children's television show Dora the Explorer type, like, here's 15 seconds. We're going to kind of just do more of a talk through of these. And I want you to try to kind of sing along as we go, and if you need to pause and try to figure some things out, because we're going to be spending the rest of the quarter really nailing the skill set. So getting it to you in a half-hour video is just not. There's no point. Okay, so we'll take it a little bit slower. But in any case, let's go ahead and do some warm up. We'll just warm up on major and minor scales, and then we'll go ahead and get into the post-tonal stuff. So here we go. Major scale, 1, 2, ready, go. Let's do a minor scale. Let's do harmonic minor. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, so this first one, okay? Alban Berg's Lyric Suite. This piece is great. This is a really cool one to check out. And this is also a great example because, as kind of messy as it may look, there's actually a lot of repetition and kind of internal structure going on here. So, I'm going to go ahead and play through part of this and kind of talk about it as I go. So we start off by ascending a whole step, of course, okay, and then leaping down a major sixth, and then up a major third, right? So, not too bad off the bat. And then in the third measure, right, there we get a, that would be, what would that be? That would be an 017. No, my oh my, that's totally wrong. An 014. That'd be an 014, right? Right? Berg does this comfortable thing for us, for singing purposes, by doing repetitions. As we'll see later on, he's got measures that will repeat in a way that's relatively easy to predict. And then we go up to B flat, descend to minor seventh, and then now we ascend by fourth and then tritone, so the B flat that we just had is turned into a B natural. Right? And then we go, so we leap by fourth, then tritone, and then we go down by fourth, right? So we do kind of a reset, right? So now we're in the second staff, right? So look at these measures, okay? Now these measures are the pitches from the very beginning. But now we have, do you see that? So there's also some kind of structural pitch similarities between this melody, okay? That repeats twice. And then we have a descending scale. Right? Although not necessarily a major scale, this is kind of Mixolydian-ish. Right? And then that gets disrupted, right, by ending in kind of an ominous place. And we do an abrupt visual shift from sharps to flats at the end there, okay? So, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and play this one through entirely, okay? I'd like you to try to sing along if you can. It could either be on loud. I'd like you to try to practice the intervals where you can. For a sight singing or for a prepared singing, the way to do intervals is to kind of do it more slowly and to try to take a minute or two to kind of prepare. But for right now, I want us to just kind of focus on the repetition of this and the sound of this type of music, okay? So we're starting here, ready? So here's going to be our eighth note. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, go. Yeah. So, Berg's music is great because he does all of these kind of post-tonal idioms that we talk about, but he has a way of writing his rows that are kind of deliberately tonal analogs, so to speak. Like, that's not necessarily a mistake. That it sounds kind of Mixolydian there, that you have these kind of oddly, you know, these kind of happy A major-ish sounds surrounded by, right? So something to consider if you're still a little on the fence with kind of both listening to but also to singing this music, okay? So let's go ahead and do another one, okay? Another one, here we go. So this one is far more pointillistic than the last one. A lot more sharper rhythms and very large contrasts and sudden shifts in range, okay? So, right off the bat for this one, starts off pretty conventional. Okay, we just do up a perfect fourth. You'd almost think it was sol do. But then, we then jump down a minor ninth, right? And then we bring that B flat back, and then we ascend by a major seventh, right? So this kind of... Do you see that? That kind of general shape there, okay? I mean, yeah, this is kind of a great example of the kind of rhythmic energy and intervallic pointillism that you can get in a lot of 20th century music, where you have really sudden contrasts and leaps and lots of accents and not necessarily in rhythmically structured places. So this is kind of a good example for that. So, beg your pardon, just needed some water. So, let's go and look through the first two staves of this, and then we'll look at the second two staves. Okay, so here we go. So, we start off with just 4/16 notes. Okay? Declarative. Call, response. But then we go down. Right? So, for post-tonal music, a lot of this is written with either specific instruments or just instruments in general in mind. That's not to say that you can't sing this stuff, and there's been a lot of tremendous vocal music written for in the 20th century. But for our purposes, having octave equivalence is a great idea, okay? So, if you can reach this B flat, but you can't reach this B flat, okay? Or you can't reach the A that comes later, for instance, being able to switch the octaves then is particularly useful. So, right? That kind of stuff, okay? That's a way to kind of fit these melodies within your range. And again, this requires more practice. You have to know your range and be comfortable with your range if you're not a vocalist already. And in addition, the amount of prep time for a sight singing purpose for a melody such as this one is going to be increased because you don't really have the kind of tonal safeguards that we would have had before. Okay? So, second staff, we ended here. So, right? Minor second, minor third. Okay? Not too bad. That's just a 0-1-4. There's 0-1-4 again. Okay, I'm abridging the rhythms a bit, but you get the gist. Then we descend by semitone. So again, we've kind of begun and ended in B flat in those first 5 measures, right? We started there, we ended there. Now we're shifting down a semitone, okay? And then notice that we will end the piece basically on this A, barring the very last measure. We kind of then start anew, okay? The reason why I'm bringing out all these little details is that this is the kind of things that post-tonal music is written in mind with. This is how you look for form and structure in post-tonal music because you don't necessarily have re, do at the end of a piece to help clarify these things. So composers use different markers for kind of these structures. So we're at the 3/4 measure. This is the third stave. Okay. Again, pretty straightforward. Okay, we've just got, let's see, that would be a, that'd be an 0-1-3. Pardon me, 0-1, yeah, that'd be an 0-1-3. Am I crazy? No, it's an 0-1-4. I don't know. Sorry. Pardon me, everybody. And then in that final measure, that third stave, notice we have B. Okay, so we've got this kind of, I call them like enclosures of a pitch, where we start on B, we ascend by semitone to C, go up by minor third, and then come down to D, so where the C and the E flat kind of hug this D, right? And then we jump down back to our A again. So, for a piece like this as well, and I mentioned those structural things before, if you find those pitches that are important, so B flat in the first 5 measures and A flat in the second half of the piece, hearing where A is could be a way to reorient yourself. So instead of thinking of, I know where do is in every octave, you think of, I know that A is if not like a central pitch, but a privileged pitch. That could be a way to reorient yourself for something like this. Pardon me? Okay, and so on, okay? That's kind of a way to go about it as well. So then we ascend by 4th with this kind of odd rhythm, right? We have a E and then we have 2E and more big rhythms, okay? Descend by minor second, descend by tritone, ascend by major 7th, okay? Very pointillistic. And then we finally end on our A flat again, or pardon me, our A natural again. And there's a little bit of a button to get us to a B at the end, okay? Kind of a tag, so to speak. This is part of the reason why this music is so interesting, but also why it's so complicated. And there's ways to talk about these pieces that's kind of a language unto themselves. So if you're kind of struggling to follow, or if you're like, what do all of these little observations that I'm saying a mile a minute mean? These are the kind of things that make this type of music work. And we've spent the first 5 and a half quarters, really, the first 5.5 quarters working on a certain genre that has its own internal logic that we're all familiar with because of our education. And for some of you, this is the first time you're seeing music like this. And the way that we go about approaching it is completely different. So that's why today I'm not having you sing along as much, because we're going to kind of build to that. Okay, so let's take a look at one final example. Okay, another Stravinsky piece, a little bit shorter. This one, notice that, let's see here. Let's look for I had some similarities in mind. But we've got a constantly changing meter. And then even within those meter changes, we have some rhythmic trickery. So notice that we've got a triplet there, but the second note is tied. It's a quarter note. So we've got this kind of quickening as we descend down, so to speak. Let's see here. In this piece is getting us towards 12-tone music, which we haven't really talked about much, and I'll try to get into more of the specifics of that after the midterm. But 12-tone music is where you have a certain row, a collection of sets, for instance, organized into rows of all 12 pitches, a 12-tone row, that then becomes the genesis of your piece. You can create big matrices with all of these rows on them. And how these work is that once you've played a pitch, you don't return to it until you've gotten through all 12. So if I do something like this, if I play A, I cannot play A again until I've played every other pitch. Right? And this is kind of what's happening here. There's always a little exception. So notice that we have the C, A sharp, C, A sharp kind of repetition there. Okay? But other than that, your pitches won't return until every other pitch has been exhausted. Okay? So, this is a bit much to get into for the sake of this video. Okay, so I wanted to give you an example that you'll find in your book that we can kind of talk through and see in a bit. But if this is totally confusing to you, there's resources I can recommend. You can schedule office hours, or I'll be devoting a video, or at least part of a video in the future, to 12-tone music, especially after the midterm. Okay, so to get us to the midterm, let's just go ahead and dip our toes in. So here we go. So we start on G sharp. We go to D, ascend by minor 7th. Okay, then we go to A sharp. Okay, now we hit C and A sharp already. Stravinsky gives us a repetition of C and A sharp, right? And then now we jump to our new pitches. Right? I'm not playing this super rhythmically, I'm just trying to show us the pitches here. So notice we've got G sharp, D, C, A sharp, E, F, B, A, G, and then F sharp. I'm sorry, I said F sharp already. Or probably, yeah, F sharp. Whoops, I didn't say F sharp already. D sharp and C sharp. So by the end of the piece, we've gotten all 12 pitches. Do we see that? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Did I miss one? Oh, I think he missed one. Pardon me. I had looked at this ahead of time, and my brain is just fluttering away. Okay? In any case, this becomes kind of a norm for a certain time in the 20th century. And 12-tone music is a big part of music's history in the 20th century, and kind of paves the way for more complicated versions of the same type of 12-tone principle, and then kind of a return back to quasi-tonality with the lessons of this kind of serialism, which we can dip our toes into later in the quarter. But for right now, yeah, that's kind of the 12-tone idiom. Like I said, we will have much more time to practice this. We'll spend the rest of the quarter kind of touching on different areas of this and talking about the 12-tone method. We'll probably spend a week on the 12-tone method at some point, but I got to hammer out the schedule with my colleagues. So that's the general gist. Okay, so this is the kind of piece where I would practice singing that, but I would also, on your instrument, kind of plink along with this if you've never seen a 12-tone melody before, and then after you've done that, then try to audiate it. Okay, so or rather, not audiate it, but vocalize it. Okay, so let's talk about what we're doing next time. So next time we're going to do dictation of post-tonal melodies. I've got a couple examples for you. I've picked some that are hopefully going to be pretty straightforward. I'm only assigning you 2 participation assignments this week because I want you to really focus on the videos and really get the videos comfortable and really feel like you have a good understanding of the kind of theoretical material and the practices that we do. So I'm only assigning you the 2 participations. So if you find that you have extra time, you have more time to practice. Okay? So this is due, today's Wednesday. This is due Friday, April 24th at 10 a.m. That is this Friday. You'll have homework assigned on Friday, and then we'll have the midterm next week. So that's it for today. Sorry for a bit of a rambly video, but there's just so much to cover in so little time, it seems. So in any case, if you have any questions, please get a hold of me. I'd love to have office hours or, talk with any of you one-on-one. And, if I don't respond within the day, I apologize. And if you ever want to schedule something, a quicker way to do it is if you tag your homework assignment 4F homework or whatever, but then put in the body of your text that you want that. My instinct is I just put all those in a folder to grade later. So if you really want to get a hold of me in a quicker time frame, in a little bit more of an urgent manner, then just send me a separate email. Okay? In any case, thank you, everybody. I will see all of you next time, and hope you're all hanging in there.